All right, this meeting will be recorded as per our usual arrangement. Fire away, Addie.
We're going to call the meeting to order and get started right away. We have a jam-packed agenda today and a very full house.
There you go.
We'll start by doing the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation. Okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I will move the approved agenda.
Arnie moved.
Second?
Did you second it?
Yeah.
Diane seconded it. Seconded it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The chair votes aye. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have two issues, the staffing update and the approval of minutes, which we got in our packet. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent
I will
agenda?
move we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you, Arnie. And Diane seconded it.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The chair votes in the aye. Items for information. We'll start off with Elijah. Is he here today? No.
But no,
Hmm?
I haven't heard from.
Okay, Eli, you're up with some out of state travel requests.
All right, so both requests come from our TRIO program. The first one is a request to go to Arcata, California on September 6th and 7th to attend the 50th Annual American Indian College Motivation Day at Cal Poly Humboldt. So they're going to do a tour of the university, and they'll be heading back the next day. So it'll be an overnight. It's a small group. I believe it's about eight students currently, if they all commit to it.
When is it?
November 6th and 7th. So that's the first one. The second one is a group of 10 high school TRIO Upward Bound students that will be going on a college road trip to New York City. The trip includes 2 days in Washington, D.C., a visit to the Capitol Complex, Smithsonian Museum, as well as commemorative national memorials. This is at no cost to the students, so they don't pay a dime for it. So for these 10 students, it's a great opportunity for them to go to New York and Washington, D.C.
How are the kids selected?
They're part of the TRIO Upward Bound program.
Questions?
No, I'm just gonna move. make a
Motion?
I would move that we accept and approve both of these out-of-state travels. I think they're both really exciting opportunities for kids, and kids in the past that have gone to New York and DC, it's been one of the biggest events of their lives. They oftentimes don't get to do that. The TRIO program has really been exemplary. We've had it here for a long, long time, and it really does help kids get the idea that they too could get out of Coos Bay and go to college. So I think it's a great program.
And sorry, this one is, the New York one is in November 30th through December 6th. 7 days.
It'll be nice too there in New York.
Yep.
And if you haven't had a chance, Dr. Savage and Jada Watson, they're our Upward Bound TRIO specialists at the high school. They're right next to Human Services. They're basically there every day. They were happy to stop in and visit with them. They're great people. We got really lucky that SWAC staff some pretty amazing people for us at the high school. It's been a struggle over the years during my time in the high school, but these last 3 years have been amazing. So really good staff.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the out-of-state travel, both out-of-state travel requests. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Safe routes to school.
Hey, everyone. Hey there. Yeah, we talked. Cool. Wow, this is quite the showing. You guys always show up in this amount, for school board meetings. Pretty impressive that you guys have food too. I might move to Coos Bay sometime. Yeah, so we've got a Safe Routes to School presentation for you guys, just sharing some information about, the process that's going on right now. We're out looking for feedback from the community to hear about what some of the needs for walking and biking for kids around this community are. My name is Trevor, this is Sylvia. We're working with ODOT on the Safe Routes to School program.
Then here's this bike.
Yeah, thank you.
You may have to point it over.
Yeah. Yeah, so, thanks everyone for coming. We're excited to hear from everybody what your thoughts on walking and biking to school are here in Coos Bay. We're really excited to be here. We've been working on this project for a few months now, and it's really nice to be here in person in this community. It's also great weather for it too, so we're excited. So we're gonna do a little background on what Safe Routes to School is, what we found out so far through the existing conditions analysis and meeting with the PMT, and how you guys can get involved as a community with Safe Routes to School and make this project even better. So what's the Safe Routes to School project identification program? So every 2 years, communities throughout Oregon apply for Safe Routes to School planning assistant. And ODOT awards this to a number of communities throughout the state. And teams of two, like me and Sylvia, go to these communities and we provide the planning assistance. So we're on the ground making recommendations, working with community members to find out where those problem areas are. And then we come up with a Safe Routes to School plan for you guys in the end. And that consists of construction and education recommendations that you can use to apply for the construction and education grants. So what is the goal? The goal is to make Oregon communities safer and more accessible for students and families to walk and bike to school. This isn't always the case in many Oregon communities, so we want to make sure that students feel comfortable walking and biking to school in the future, and that can be done through those education and infrastructure grant improvements. So how will this process support Coos Bay? We're here today and tomorrow to visit Coos Bay, conduct a walk audit and a facilities inventory, and also hold this meeting to gather some input on the project. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be at Sunset School at 7:10. So join us for a walk audit as we observe the drop off of students. And then in the afternoon, we're going to be at Marshfield High School doing another walk audit to observe the pickup. And then afterwards, we're going to be working with the engineers to develop some infrastructure recommendations for areas throughout Coos Bay. Those could be things like sidewalk improvements, RFB, different ways that might improve the walking and biking for students to school, as well as education recommendations. And then at the end of the process, usually in March, we're going to have a Safe Routes to School plan for y'all. So you can take that and use those recommendations to apply for the Safe Routes to School construction grant, and then hopefully get that awarded. I believe y'all were awarded some grant money for a program at Eastside School. So hopefully we could bring more improvements to other communities around Coos Bay. Very excited. So what we've learned so far, and what we can work on. So we've spent some time, Sylvia and I, reviewing different documents, looking at satellite imagery, and learning about crash patterns around the schools. So there's some main questions to answer right now. What are some of the issues around Sunset School and Marshfield High School, and what are some of the improvements that have been made in the past, like Eastside? What improvements are planned for the future, and how can Safe Routes to School be part of those plans moving forward? So here's some of the different factors we've looked at so far. We've looked at racial and ethnic demographics, equity factors, languages spoken at the schools. We've conducted a plan review that includes reviewing really fun documents like things called the Transportation System Plan, transit connections, previous Safe Route to School efforts, or walking and biking encouragement activities, as well as the crash history around the schools. Some of the big takeaways we've learned so far, and feel free to input if you have any other ideas. The city of Coos Bay continues to prioritize pedestrian improvements and close gaps within the bike and pedestrian networks. We've learned that safety is a top priority for this community. Upgrading or adding sidewalks in different locations like Morrison Street, Wallace Street, Southwest Boulevard, different places where we have curb, bump outs, implementing intersection safety improvements on Empire Boulevard and Newmark, and then crossing improvements in different places like Ocean Boulevard and Newmark Avenue, Wallace Street, and others. Some other big takeaways, different roads like Newmark Street and Hull Street are being restriped for bicycle facilities. We're connecting key bicycle corridors to schools, stronger connections to existing parks like Mingus Park, Pirate Park, and stronger connections to transit and bus stops throughout the city. Here's some different locations that we thought were pretty important as we were reviewing the documents. And we have included that in our existing conditions memo that we've shared, but we'd love to hear more feedback, like I said, moving forward. So you have some ideas on Safe Route to School. Maybe you have a kid who goes to one of these schools. Maybe you're in the community and you know about some safety issues that impact people walking and biking to school. How can you provide your input? So we have a few different options here. Sylvia and I are here in Coos Bay right now, so you can come and talk to us. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on how walking and biking could be safer around here. We also have this QR code. You can scan it if you're online. You can scan it right now and provide your input through the public input map, as well as a little survey. And then you can also email Greg, the project contact, and he can forward public comment to me. Also provide your comments during the walk audit. So join us as we observe walking and biking to school at Sunset School at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then Marshfield in the afternoon at 3 p.m. So hopefully get a few folks out there so we can learn about some of the walking and biking conditions in person. Yeah, thank you so much. Sylvia and I are going to be here for a little bit, and we've got a poster board. Y'all can add your input to some green dots for areas that you think are good for walking and biking, and then red dots in places that you think might need improvement. We also have some sticky notes that you can add different comments to different locations. So yeah, looking forward to hearing more and learning more about you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Are there any questions?
If you'd like to keep that here, I can meet you at Sunset tomorrow and get it back to you. Like,
Yeah.
the whole evening.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I can meet you.
I guess I have one.
I'll probably be there.
Is there gonna-
Okay.
Will there be a
Sounds good.
follow-up over on east side on the work that was done to kind of see how it worked out? Or is that a different? So you guys did some work on east side on the sidewalks and whatnot. You guys gonna, is that in the schedule to go by there?
For me and Sylvia today,
Yeah, or not today, but this week before you leave.
we could drive by there. Yeah,
Yeah, if you get an idea of how things worked out, what didn't work out, or.
right. Yeah, yeah. I would be curious today. I've heard about that project, so
Yes.
be interested to see like.
So Kevin, about a year after that project was completed, the Safe Routes to School team that was on that project did send out some follow-up flyers and QR codes and some other information throughout the schools. And I can reach out and find out what feedback they got. I don't recall hearing any feedback coming back from them, so I'm not sure if there was much participation in that, but I can follow up and let you know.
Yeah, I was just curious if that was part of the process.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm Greg Hamlet with the city of Coon Bay.
Yeah.
And I'll be your contact for this. So, it's got my email addresses all up there. So, if you guys do have any comments, feel free to email me. But yeah, Kevin, I can reach out to them and find out what if any comments they did receive back then. But, I think, overall, I think it was a huge success. I know at the city level, we haven't heard too many negative comments regarding that Safe Routes to School, program. I think it went off without a hitch. As far as that project went, I think there was maybe some other things that may have been, could have been looked at, but this wasn't part of the scope of the project yet.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I was, just that comment. We had a young man in a wheelchair at Marshall High School a number of years ago, and the city did an amazing job. He would go around and say, I can't get over that curve because they cut out so and all down 101 and up towards the high school, they made cutouts for him to get his wheelchair up and down. He liked to go out on his wheelchair and get every place. And they actually came to the high school, not the city, but we did. And the kid said, I'm going to the high school. His mom worked in North Bend, but he said, I'm going to Marshall High School. That's where I want to go. I'll figure out how to get to every room in the building. And other than what was the East Branch then, he figured out a way through the auditorium. He could get anywhere with his wheelchair. And it was pretty impressive. So I thank the city for doing that a long time ago. And I know you've continued to open up sidewalks so that curbs are cut so kids in a wheelchair can make it. So I appreciate that.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Next up, CDEA business.
All right,
Anthony,
Dave. Oh, I'm here, David. I'm going to do my best to present this screen. I haven't done it since we were in COVID. So I'm going to give it a try here. I think I got it going right.
Yeah.
Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. So Becky's at outdoor school right now, so I'm kind of stepping in for her tonight. I'll keep it pretty short and sweet. Our first announcement, we just held our elections, and Becky and I will be co-presidents of CBEA. So there might be a little readjustment period for us. So if you could give us a little grace while we try and figure out how the co-presidency thing works out, that'd be appreciated. What else do we got? We have our member spotlight. It is Ashley Caballero of Marshfield. She has been what was that, Arnie? Oh, okay. She has been integral in us implementing our new Avid Advisory program, which supports students with reading, writing, note-taking, organization, and all these things that they need to be successful. In addition to completely revamping our senior capstone, and what else do we have in there? And some of our SEL curriculum. So she has taken the lead on working on all that. She is also our Avid department champion. So it's her role is a lot like what our department champions do, except for the Avid program. And then she has brought some dual credit classes to Marshfield in the early childhood education realm. And she offers AP psychology. And this summer she went to the AP Summer Institute for Psychology and our Avid Summer Institute. So she's been putting in an enormous amount of hours building and getting all of the new Avid related things brought to our school. And yeah, so that's why we chose her. She has been working overtime to do what is best for our students and staff and our community, and it's much appreciated. And then what else do we have? Later this month, we will be sending 6 members to a bargaining conference to prepare for our contract negotiations, which are right around the corner. I believe we can send our intent to bargain in on November 1. And I know you guys got a lot of contracts to bargain this year, so hopefully we get started early. And as of now, this is our negotiations committee that we have. We have almost every campus represented at this point, except Alt Ed. So if anybody in the Alt Ed realm would like to be on our negotiations committee and you're listening, please let us know. And other than that, that's all we got for you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have questions?
I
Arnie?
would just say it would be remiss not to mention that we're gonna have flu shots later in the year.
Yep.
Since Miss Crane is very,
Oh yeah, give me a second and I can pull those up, the dates for that real quick. Oh wait, I'm not showing my email. Okay. Maybe I can't find it quickly. But yes, we are still doing oh, there we go. I can't find the dates. I'm sorry.
no problem.
But yes, we will still be having our flu clinic again this year, which is a great opportunity for students and staff to go get all of their shots. Thank you, Arnie.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, how do I stop?
Okay. I as I'm looking at this, realize I was remiss and skipped right over public input. Is there anyone here who wants to address us?
There was no one signed up.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Okay, then we're back to Bree and OSEA business.
I'm gonna raise my hand and public input, but just then go with that OSBA stuff. David, I kind of sent you a link late,
I got you.
and I also just remembered that you asked to receive these to share out in your newsletter. So I have to remember to do that. So maybe when I share it with you, then I can include you in it as well.
Perfect.
And so tonight our staff spotlight is Joni Martin. She is our custodian at our Milner Crest building. So for the district office, all ed and preschool. And she also comes down here and takes care of Blossom Gulch for us. So she is going in between the two places. One thing about Joni is she takes so much pride in her work and she does a really good job and she does it efficiently. If you need something and you ask her, it's not when I get to it or when I have time, it's yeah, I'll get it done, and it's taken care of rather quickly and in a timely manner. And she cleans the main toilet, and so I'm always personally grateful that our bathrooms are always clean. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to her to just making sure. And we chose a custodian because last week on Wednesday, and I don't remember the date, was Custodian Appreciation Day. And so that's why we chose a custodian. One of the issues that are just coming up for classified staff are having subs and coverages in buildings. I don't think that it's a huge problem per se. Within district leadership, it is more of a problem. They're just not available. And so our unit has talked with our HR and Dr. Ainsworth and kind of problem solving and looking at how to make sure that we have coverage in our buildings and people have subs when they're out. But I think that is something that's kind of important to recognize is it's hard to find some classified subs in there. And then we too have started doing bargaining training, and we have our negotiation team, and we had our first meeting and training on Friday. And so I'm excited to get that ball rolling in the next year. So does anybody have any questions for me?
I'll just make a comment on Joni because I've known her forever, but she encouraged her husband to come work with our alternative programs, and he did a whole bunch of work at the beginning of the school year. I think end of last year. It's a family group that does care about our schools, and I really appreciate them both.
Thank you, Bree. Okay. Let's jump too far. All the cities. Okay, our featured schools today are East Side and Millicoma.
Oh, yeah. That'll do it.
Thank you.
It's like they were clapping for you said.
Oh.
Okay. It's a really early time to be presenting, you know. But we have some good stuff to share and some, you know, room for growth. I'm Kara Davidson. I'm the principal of Eastside.
Gary Roberts, principal of Millicoma.
Are we on?
Yep.
All right.
Unfortunately, you guys gave me a PDF.
I
so
told
you
him not to, and I
get
don't,
to
I mean,
click.
I don't know what to do. with that.
Don't click in.
I think
But I'll scroll through.
Present it.
Okay,
He
well,
told
that's
me he
beyond.
wanted to make sure we could tell you what to do during. Mine's on presentation, or whatever that's for. All right, so we starting with attendance, I believe. Great. So right now is a really great time to look at attendance. Because they aren't sick yet. Although the staff is starting to drop, I've noticed. So in kindergarten right now, in this first month, we had 81% of regular attendance. So students were attending 90% or more. 76% in first grade and 83% in second grade, totaling 79% for all of our grades, which is our school goal is to be at 80. So that's work to do there already. Go ahead, David.
Millicoma attendance wise, last year in the second semester, we were at 62%. Overall, for the whole school year last year, we finished at 69%, which was a 6% increase over the year before. Still a little bit behind pre-COVID when we were in the low 70s. But we're starting off pretty good in most of our grade levels. We're 84% third grade, 90% in fifth, and 86% in sixth. Our fourth grade is a little bit behind right now. Our goal also is 80% this year, to have 80% of our kids be regular attenders, which, as Kara had said, is 90%, attending 90% or more of the school year.
Not a gimme. We rely heavily on parents for that. Bree, of course, helps us out. And she sent principals this document that I just made a few copies of. And maybe you've seen it from her already, I don't know. And so we sent that out to our families too. And I was interested in our kindergarten number because that looked a lot better this time of year than it did in the years past. And we asked teachers at the kindergarten level to really use that kickoff week that we have to talk to parents about how important attendance is, even in kindergarten, because we're still dealing with parents who maybe attended a half day and the rigor wasn't so intense when they experienced kindergarten. And it is now. So it's really important that those kids are in school, and it's so far so good. Early yet, of course. All right. So we were asked to talk about our MCAS data and our SABIS data. And so we're going to start with Eastside. I wanted to show kind of where we started when we implemented Amplify in 22 rather. And so this is kind of a snapshot of where we started when we first started using this data system. We had 83% of our kindergartners below grade level when they arrived to us, right? 67% of our first graders were below, and 73% of our second graders were below when we started the school year back at implementation. And so this year, next slide, David. We had 73% of our kindergartners below, and we were kind of attributing this to Little Pirates. It's very helpful because we're kind of in line, right? Little Pirates preschool and what we're teaching. Also, we asked Head Start to use Integrity phonemic awareness curriculum, and there's a huge, we're looking better than ever in phonemic awareness at the kindergarten level, so that's been huge. Still in the 60s for first grade, below grade level, but they get a new test. They get a couple of new fluency tests in first grade, and so that's not surprising. They haven't seen it before. They have their summer slide, and so now they come back to school and they're like, read really fast now. We're going to time you, pressure's on. And then in second grade, we only have 52% benchmark when we started. I've also placed up here end of year, so for the cohort. So our kindergartners last year, where they landed, and our first graders last year, and current second graders. And so they're not as great as the end of the year, but we don't expect them to be either.
All right, Millicoma. So at Millicoma, I have given you the same cohort of kids. So last year at second grade, end of the year, you could see that the second graders we're sitting at around 40%. We're below grade level. This year we're sitting right at that. So we didn't have a lot of summer slide when we did our beginning of the year. This is the best beginning of the year set of data we've had at Millicoma since we started this. As you're going to see as we go through this, there's a lot of positives there. And Kara's got our group report that has some more data that she'll hand out for both of the buildings, has a little bit more historical. So our third graders, they are currently, we are sitting at, looks like we are at 47%, excuse me, our fourth graders are sitting at 47%, excuse me, holy smokes, 57% of our kids are meeting benchmark to start the school year. Again, these numbers were a lot like East Sides were a few years ago, where we're sitting 70 to 80% of our kids below benchmark. And so we've made huge gains. A bunch of the gains that we've had should be attributed to the work that's gone on at East Side with their staff, kind of getting the ball rolling on these things. And then as kids are getting in, they're understanding expectations. They have their basic skills, their letter sounds, things like that. And we're able to kind of get going quicker. And we're able to get our intervention groups also smaller, which has kind of helped. When we first started this a few years ago, we're kind of in the same boat right now, math-wise, where we were at a few years ago, where we have too many kids that need support and not enough bodies. And now we're kind of winning that battle with our students. Next slide, please. Thank you. So you can see, again, when we give you some reports later, you'll be able to see this, but you can see that we are at 59% of our kids starting the school year in fifth grade are at or above benchmark. And sixth grade wise, we are also sitting at 59%. So we are making headway. We're getting there. I think that, as I said, a lot of the credit goes towards the East Side staff getting us started. But then as they're coming in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, we're seeing that trend continue with our kids. I will say at third grade, like Kara talked about, the first graders getting a different assessment. Our third graders also get the added vocabulary comprehension assessment, the maze we call it. And so it's a timed assessment, 3 minutes. Kids have to pick drop downs of which vocabulary word best fits. And so there's a strategy to it. And we're starting to work to kind of get kids acclimated to that strategy.
So as part of the MCAS data, what we have done, starting last year, but honing in on it this year with Dr. Ainsworth, it's kind of push on PLCs and what that's going to look like in space schools. And we've asked teachers to take ownership of their data, and they've been asked to write action plans. So we have kindergarten, first, second, and third grade to share with you guys just to see what that looks like. And so they're kind of looking at where the struggles are, taking a deeper dive than the composites and saying, what could this be a problem of? Like if comprehension scores are low, is that a comprehension problem, or is that a devoted problem or a fluency problem? And then writing goals, really specific targeted goals for what they're going to work on in their core instruction to bring up those
For
scores.
each kid.
This is more action plan for core, right? But yeah, then our intervention team dives into each kid.
And Addie, what I'll tell you about that, thanks for the segue, is intervention wise, last year was the first year that we started to look with our title intervention specialist, Katie Banks, where we were getting kids that were meeting all of their decoding and all of their letter sounds. And now it was like, okay, how do we have that transition and support them fluency wise? Because they may still be in the yellow, just below benchmark, but they've achieved everything to get out of the red. And we started to have, it was a good problem to have, but it's like, okay, now what do we do? We had so many kids that were in the red that didn't have these foundational skills. Now that they do, how do we kind of buffer that transition back into some of our kids that are at benchmark? We also last year we had 5 kids that we exited from special ed services last year in reading in ELA, which was more than we had my previous 4 years combined. We maybe had 1 or 2 in 4 years. Now COVID probably, could also play into that. But again, another good problem to have, and it shows us that what we are doing is being effective.
Okay, so on to the not so good news. This is our math data at Eastside School, and it's not surprising. We've seen the state report card. We know where we stand, right? Also, this is the year 1 implementation of SAVIS. And so there's a learning curve there, certainly. Lots of professional development opportunities that have already happened and will be coming our way. most excited for the admin training that is upcoming, so that I can be more fluent in finding these reports and getting them to you and kind of determining what they mean. But we got a lot of work to do in math. I know that it's not going to be without its speed bumps, because again, we have an intervention, we have too many kids in need, right? And so trying to figure out how we're going to make our intervention system for math as robust as it is for reading is going to be a challenge, but one that we're up for. And I think that it's nice that we kind of have, you know, the roadmap is kind of already there for us, hopefully, to be able to follow. And so, right, you're looking at, like, this is our meets percentage for kindergarten, smaller for first, a little bigger for second, but kindergarten is looking okay right now. And it's going okay.
So why is there a drop from kindergarten to first grade that's so dramatic?
There's a lot of skills that are taught in first grade, like a lot more. And again, I don't know, and Gary might know more about how to explain Sabbath to you, because we need more training too. And so I don't know what that test looks like compared to what they were learning in kindergarten, right? I mean, they're also in a brand new curriculum, so the language is a little different. The feel of it is a little different. Teachers aren't quite comfortable, you know, with it yet. And so that could be
And
part of the
that's introduced
explanation.
at first grade.
This is all of us now. Okay?
All of you?
Yeah, this is our new math curriculum. So this is the method implementation. And those, year one is always.
So, I will tell you, so the way that the Sabbath screener and diagnostic works, all students take a screener. They score at a certain percentage, they take an on-grade diagnostic. If they score lower than that, they take a below-grade diagnostic. And that kind of feeds into this chart of where they're at. And as you can see at Millicoma, we have a lot more reds and yellows than we do greens and blues. And so hopefully it might be a little tough to read. I'm kind of reading at an angle, but it still might be a little tough. But at most of our grade levels, we're 70 to 80% of our kids that are below grade level right now. At Millicoma last year, one of the reasons I'm so excited about Sabbath is we had 3 different curriculums at Millicoma for math last year. And so I would go from one classroom to the next and see completely different topics and standards. Now this year already, I've been into some classrooms and seen a lot of people working on place value, decimal point, things like that. From grade level to grade level. So it seems like the scope and sequence now is what you would like to see more unified than it was before when we were fighting all these different curriculums. I'm excited about the intervention piece that goes with this, though, the success maker that the students are on. They're on it for an hour a week. Unfortunately, we have to have 7 hours of data in there before we can really start getting some usable numbers. But from what I've seen so far, we are seeing some growth already at grade levels when I look at progress, even just in the first, few weeks that we've been using it. But we have a ways to go, as Kara was talking about. We're seeing that with intervention groups. For example, our 4th grade, we were looking at trying to make intervention groups of 6 kids. And in order to meet all of our kids that aren't at grade level, we would need 11 groups. And I only have 10 bodies that can work with that in that time frame. So that's just to meet the kids that are in the red. So that shows you we've got tall task ahead of us. But we were there with math or with reading 3 years ago, and look what we've done. So we've got a blueprint to get there. We just need to implement it and do it. Oh, I get to keep talking. So state testing. I've got some of our OSAS, Oregon State assessment data here for you. You can see that this is our reading assessment. Here's some historical data from 2023. In the spring, you could see that we were sitting, between our 3rd grade was at, our 3rd grade was at 48% that year. 4th grade was sitting at 29%, excuse me. And it kind of varies throughout. I will tell you that last year we obviously did not achieve what we need to achieve. And it's like one of the goals that Dr. Ainsworth has for us. And it's being embraced because it needs to improve. We need to do more for our kids. I think that with our ELA program that we have in our interventions, we're going to start seeing, we've implemented daily journal writing at Millicoma this year to help the students with the writing component. I'm hopeful that will help raise our scores. And then I'm also interested in looking at, after this year, when we are able to continue to build, looking at the ODE blueprint for the state testing and trying to find more ways to implement that blueprint within the standards that we have in the building. And talking to schools, being a member of COSA and a member of TSPC, and talking with schools, the schools that are having the most success on the state test are schools that are implementing those blueprints into their standards and really making it a priority to focus. So I think that's something we really need to look at as a district. Next slide, please, Damon.
I just switched it.
Oh, you did. Okay. Thank you. So you can see here's our scores for fourth grade, fifth grade and sixth grade. And I've included the where we are at state-wise. So if you look and you can see at fourth grade, 35% of our kids passed the state ELA test last year compared to 42% statewide. Our trends have been fairly consistent over the years. We've consistently been, 8-ish% behind the state level. We had a kind of an anomaly a few years ago where 50% of our kids passed at one grade level, but overall, that's where we've been. David, go ahead. Math-wise is very similar, consistently behind the state level. And we'll provide this data. It's in the group report you guys are going to get so you can take a look at it. I don't want to bog you down with a bunch of colors and numbers, but I mean, it's clear to see that the colors that are there are mostly reds and yellows and not the blues and greens that we want. But it's a challenge, it's an opportunity. So we need to embrace it. And then there's the data for fourth, fifth, and sixth.
Okay, this is the drip report that you've been talking about. I don't know if Dr. Gilbert has talked about. It's drip. I know that to be what kids are calling outfits these days.
Yes.
Am I right about that? Do I sound cool when I say the kids are saying it? Okay. And so this is new to our admin team, but handy little document that was pretty easy to fill out. So thanks for that, Justin. And that kind of gives you more information that you can pour over at your leisure, and all of the things that we'll be tracking throughout the school year. We were asked to share some fun things that are happening in our school. On Friday, the kindergarten team had nursery rhyme Olympics because they finished their knowledge unit with Amplified on nursery rhymes. And so they had a Humpty Dumpty puzzle that, fell and had to put back together. They had Jack Be Nimble Hopscotch. I don't know if you can see the candlesticks there, but they had to jump over them. Baba Black Sheep Race. They were delivering the rule, I came to learn. Twinkle Twinkle Star Toss and Jack and Jill Bucket Race. And then they kind of graphed their favorite activity afterwards in a celebration of finishing.
We ended up number one. What's number 6?
Number 6 is that's the Twinkle Twinkle Star Toss. Was a hit in this one particular kindergarten classroom. And then the next slide is we were laughing after kickoff week. We had a staff meeting and our kindergarten teachers just looked so perky, right? They didn't have students that week. They were just meeting leisurely with families and they were just all smiles and they took a picture in front of the bell and they were very, very alert. And I was like, I wonder what it looks like next Friday after the kindergartners arrived. And so they recreated what they felt like the following Friday. So this is a week apart before students went after. It was fun. They're still tired.
Millicoma, the month has been dominated by swimming lessons. We're in our last week. Third grade has swimming lessons going on this week, and that'll end those. So I've got some pictures of some kids in some swimming lessons, and Mr. Banks right there, who loves leading the swimming lessons for the kids. This year was the first year we had our sixth grade students lead our positive behavior stations. And so that middle picture right there is a sixth grade student talking to kids about expectations and rules for the swings. Diana Spillman took that on this year and it went really well. Gives us a good blueprint to move forward with it going in the future. But it was great to see the sixth grade kids taking a little ownership outside and having to get up in front of their peers and give them some guidance. Our fifth grade students down at the bottom of Miss Gamble's class were doing some quill writing. With quill pens and like dipping it in the ink and writing. And so interesting. And then we had our first PBIS assembly to end the month of September, which went really well. And last slide there. I wanted to recognize some students in the top right here. These are our top Sabbath students when taking the diagnostic, those one in each grade level. Ones here at the bottom are our top M-class students. Right here, we did have a couple of district office employees, kids who are in these pictures,
Mine.
including one that's sitting over there who is a better reader than his mom. And we got a little some physical education going on. That's Mrs. Delgado's class right there in PE. Our fun festival float that we had this year, we did a joint float this year between the two schools. It went really well. It always makes me nervous when you're walking with a float with a bunch of kids on it, but they did a great job.
We might want to look into some like liability.
Yeah, I think we might want to. But Amy Springsteen did a fantastic job of getting that organized, and the kids had a great time. And then on the bottom, got Miss Gamble's class just kind of hanging out in the stairs. And then Mr. Hill is our new music teacher, and he's done a really nice job of coming in. He kind of has a different style for teaching music. If any of you would like to come over, I think you'd have a really good time watching it. This actually was a kind of a snippet from a video that I took where the kids had drumsticks and they were kind of using the floor and working on like rhythmic patterns. There's a lot of movement involved in his music classes. So there's some dancing and things like that. It's really great. And he's doing a fantastic job. He's been a great addition to our building. And so I wanted to make sure to include him in our pictures.
One thing that just Dr. Ainsworth has asked us to do is send monthly newsletters home to families, which is, kind of like, yeah, of course, but the expectation is there, so we do it now. And so we just printed some off of our last newsletter for you guys to take a look at and share. And it's been really, I think, helpful with alignment for our building principals to, ensure that we are kind of all doing the same for all of our families, right? It's going to look different at every grade level, but it feels nice to kind of be aligned. Alignment's also happening in our buildings with Character Strong. Mr. Roberts and I both do the Character Strong announcements in the morning now, so kids are getting the same message about respect. This is what we started this month. And so that's been a nice change as well.
And I constructed 82% of that newsletter all by myself. And had to get some help from a couple of people that know Canva better than I do. But
Next time you'll be.
next time I've got it. We're good. It's got a good template.
Any questions for us?
Yep.
I do too.
You want to go first?
So, when you're looking at the math and you're looking at like the sixth graders, and I think it was like 64 that were below, is there any, I don't want to say intense focus on the sixth graders, but like when they go into junior high, intervention looks very, very different. They don't have the small groups where they get to break out. Is there any like dialed in focus on the sixth graders to move that number significantly, or have we thought about that? Because the intervention you guys do is so good at the lower levels. For me, and I could be wrong, it feels like it tapers off a little bit in the junior high and then into the high school. And so it would seem to me it would be like really important, significant to move that sixth grade class.
We have added, so last year we had an intervention class that was an ELA focus for sixth grade. This year we have an ELA and a math class. And so like all of our grade levels that have had math intervention, sixth grade will have ELA and math this year. And during that, what we're looking at right now is using the Success Maker program, which is an online component. It's their main intervention piece, the curriculum's main intervention piece. Students will be on that for an hour a week, so 2 30-minute chunks. And then the other 2 days a week, they're going to have small group instruction in groups of 6 or 7 with a staff member during that 30 minutes. It's one of the ways I would like to do small group instruction with them every day, to be honest, but we don't have enough bodies. And so this is the best way. And this is, again, how we started with ELA 3 years ago, was 2 days a week on a computer-based intervention program, and then 2 days a week with small group instruction until we can whittle that number down. And then we move to more small group instruction, more intensive small group instruction. So that's our plan with all of our grade levels for math. And we'll see some successes.
And we have a data system that we can be monitoring, which we were lacking, at least in Bridges and KP, we were lacking for sure. And so it's a lot easier to monitor progress when you have information that's spread on the day.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So, we have watched improvement in reading. In large part, we have the science of reading. Everybody's kind of on board across the schools. We have a new curriculum in math, but is there a training in math? Is there a vision of what that looks like? And do the teachers have the same kind of feeling about math that they had about reading? And I guess my final would be is, as you look at the state testing or your other testing, are there any indications about which of the math skills they're lacking that is causing the problem? Because a few kinds of general things in mathematics can create havoc throughout the test because they can't do it. So have we been able to identify any of those kinds of things that we need to work on?
I would say, I honestly think a big part of the problem was the different amount of curriculums we had in our district for
Okay.
years. I mean, this is year 20 for me, and it was that way until this year, right? Where there's just K3 has one, 4, 5, 6 maybe had a different one, and then it changes and changes and changes. And what happens with that is like the K3 level, we were using a really conceptualized math program, right? And we were talking about how numbers work together. And then by the time they got to 4th grade, it was very conceptual. Now it's like algorithm. And so the shifts of like that happening, I think are detrimental to math progress because you then have so many different ways of looking at it, right? And that's a great thing for kids who have a number sense, right? Or catch on pretty quickly to that, but that's not all of our kids. And so I think just having alignment of curriculum is going to be integral in changing that. Because again, now we're vertically speaking the same language, not just across these grade bands.
And do we see the new curriculum as being more aligned to the state, to what we're testing? I mean, that's the thing that always bothered me, is you teach one thing, but then the test is on something totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
And the test has a lot of like other computer components that,
Right.
drag and drop and all of the things
Those
that
things can be really
are
problem.
additional. Yeah.
So the new curriculum, for example, when we're looking at the Success Maker, and I'm not going to put Brian Hutchins on the spot, but he did do the pilot. But you can actually go into Success Maker and you can click what standards you want focused, and one of the drop downs is the Oregon State standards. And so that should help us in terms of the standards that are going to be on the assessment. I can say that, for example, when we went around a week ago, Mrs. Banks and I, as we're still trying to figure out some of this intervention stuff with math, partially because the 7 hours that we need to get solid data is, most people have talked to us about, most grade levels have talked about numbers and operations being the domain that they want looked at. And then once 6th grade, it was algebraic expressions. I could be off on that one, Arnie, but as the identified domains that we want to target as we are looking at the interventions for our kids. And so I think we're starting to get a sense of what we need to attack and how to attack it, but we need to get just a few more weeks into it.
Time.
And did that answer all of your questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And I'll just say, Arnie, the state test applies, when I've been talking to other districts through the organizations I'm with, looking at the state test as, not just the prep for it, but then also looking at the state test, the mentality of looking at the state test is big for a lot of districts too. Looking at it with, this is our chance to shine. This is our chance to show what we know. And I think that's something that I need to do a better job as an administrator, and hopefully our building will embrace that, is that test needs to be our time to shine and not looked at as a hoop to jump through.
Are most kids taking it?
Yeah, we've had 92% participation.
Yeah, that's good.
So we've done really well, I think, as a district. I know at Millicoma, but I can see as a district, I think we've had good participation rates.
Yeah.
I have a question. And you presented information about all the new programs and how you're doing better. How are your teachers doing? Are you getting pushback from teachers? Like, are they feeling overwhelmed or anything? Is there anything we need to be thinking about as we're moving forward?
I think it depends on the building. I mean, that's,
I'm not getting a lot of pushback at Eastside right now, but we've been in the game of like making this change. I've been talking to you guys about it for the last handful of years. It really was a grassroots effort on Eastside and to move into the science of reading. that happened within and organically. And so they were ready for change. They had welcomed this new model of PLC. It's kind of the direction we're going. So our teachers have been pretty okay. And curriculum implementation is hard, no matter what. And, no matter where you are in your teaching career, it's going to be difficult. And so it's not without its challenges, and there will be more ahead of us. But right now, and none of them are here, they're online. Like I'm gonna say it's
I'd say right now, Millicoma, from the people, the staff that I've talked to, there's some people that feel overwhelmed, and there's some people that are still internalizing kind of the changes and how it affects them. There's also some people that have told me this is the swift kick in the rear that Coos Bay Schools is needed, and like, let's go full steam ahead. So I think it's like, we just need to continue to work hard, and we talk to kids all the time about adversity and perseverance and growth mindset. And I think, as adults, sometimes me included, we need to have the same mentality.
Exactly.
And I think if we do that, then we're going to be just fine. We just need to keep buying time and keep moving forward.
improved data generally helps with that too. Right? When kids can show that they're learning, it helps teachers feel good about what they're doing. And looking at data can be hard, and it can be taken really personal. And I think that's, one of the struggles that we have to contend with too, that trying to make sure that it's not personalized, but also that we're taking ownership of it, right? That the results matter because of what we're doing as the educators. And so that's a culture shift, and that takes time. And it will continue to be difficult, I'm sure. But there's a lot to celebrate too. So.
And like Kara was talking about, that Eastside's 2-3 years ahead of the curve on the things that we're implementing. They're also the building that's starting to get recognized for some of those things. Whether we're at ORTII last week, and Eastside was asked to present about what they're doing scheduling wise and how they're doing interventions for kids. ODE was down, not to steal anybody's thunder if that was going to get brought up.
No, that's good.
ODE was down looking at Eastside and was super impressed at what they're doing. So the things that they're doing, that they've done for the last couple of years, hopefully will continue to trickle into the other buildings, and that, our other buildings will start getting recognized for the gains that Eastside is making.
I was able to say after we were at ORTII last week in Salem, and to be asked again in 20 years in Coos Bay schools, I haven't been to a conference where Coos Bay is asked how they're doing things, and so that felt really good. And I was able to share that with Eastside staff at our staff meeting on Friday, and it was a lot of smiles in the room. And it is hard work, but boy, it feels good when things are moving. We'll get there.
And we have a famous teacher in the midst who had to start the school year with a big fountain break.
Oh, that's you.
We just want to say thank you for making it all work, because it was kind of a disastrous way to start a school year
Oh, yes.
with water
Oh,
everywhere.
yes.
24.
We didn't know one compass, one crew also meant like swabbing the deck and doing all those things that happen.
Back in your classroom now?
Not yet. We're waiting on cabinets. Cabinets are back ordered, but we're getting it.
I was wondering about that.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, as David's pulling up my presentation, you mentioned math, Arnie, and everybody talks about third grade and reading, and third grade reading is critical, right? We all know that. For math, obviously K-5 foundational is important, but sixth grade is super critical for math, because you start to get into more abstract mathematical thinking and not as concrete, and it's heavy on fractions. So one of the things that, when I've worked with really good math teachers, they'll always say, kids, you've got to get their fractions sound. If their fractions are sound, they're going to be okay in Algebra 1, and they're going to be okay in upper level math. But when they go back and the kids are struggling in middle school and high school and math, it's typically because of fractions. And so that base is really important. So thank you, Gary and Carrie, you guys did a great job. I'll jump into my presentation. Again, superintendent goals. These are the 4 things that
you guys have tasked me with: raise academic expectations, report progress on goals, and establish data systems, which this was illustration A tonight. Great job. Investigate and establish the need for additional programs and develop a long-term plan for the future of alternative education in our district. One of the things I wanted to go over tonight is Division 22 standards. Think of this almost as an auditing process from the state. As I've learned more about it, it's really a pretty good process. It's to make sure districts and schools have baseline systems so you can be considered a functioning school or district. And I'll go through some of the standards and then pull out a couple that just as an examples. But it's the floor. It's compliance. It's the floor. You should do way more than what Division 22 is asking for. But I think the state legislature and ODE has done a really good job with this process. So here are the rules. There's 4 categories: teaching and learning, health and safety, district performance and accountability, and human resources and staffing are the 4 primary categories. And then underneath those categories are subcategories. So curriculum instruction is a subcategory. There are 50 some areas that we need to be compliant in. Now I would say this, compliant doesn't mean we're proficient in all these things. It means we have a plan and we're trying to execute the plan. We are better in some areas than others, and there's some room for growth. Here would be an example, and Mr. Ashton and Mrs. Crooker in the audience, they're familiar with these diploma types. But Division 22 requires that you have these diplomas available for kids. So you have your standard, your modified, your extended, and your certificate of attendance. That's alignment across the state. Instructional hours. So grade 12, 966 hours, grades 9 through 11, 990, so forth and so on. So those are mandated by the state. Curriculum alignment. Remember Roblin talked about this. This is really important. This is part of the standards. You have now curriculum is adopted at the local level, right? So the Coos Bay curriculum will look different than the 4J curriculum, but the standards, they're aligned to the state standards. But it really comes down to do we have our written curriculum? Do we have our taught curriculum? And do we have our assessed curriculum? And do you have the Venn diagram of those 3 things? Complaints. Every district has to have a complaint procedure, which you guys have done some work on with the KL process. I think that's on our agenda tonight. So there has to be at every district level, there's got to be a process for complaints to come from the community and parents. Those usually start at the school level and they work their way up to the district level. Next steps for Division 22. Really, it's me presenting tonight to make sure it's on your radar. David will post it on the community website, and then we will submit it to ODE. We are I can say unequivocally, we are in compliance. However, as I learn more about it, these are some areas for growth for us. Teaching the adopted curriculum, which I think at the K-6 level, that's a strength of ours. It sometimes can be a challenge at the secondary level. Developing data-driven practices and data systems, assessments of essential skills, and then equity task force is something that we'll need to develop next year and in the fall of 2025. So that's Division 22 in the spirit of data, lots of data tonight. Leading indicators that we'll track. This is attendance. This is daily membership. This is average daily membership. This is not the 90% attender standard that, you have kids that they're there 90% of the time. This is the average daily membership up to this point. You have 2 dates. You have October 4th and September 6th. You can see at the very end district, we are 91% and October 4th, as of October 4th, and 96 as of September 6th. That green bar is that's the bar that's we want to try and keep our rate above 90%. Secondary grades. So leading indicators, I think I've said this before. Think about lead indicators as the front windshield. Like you're looking through the front windshield. This is where we're going. If things aren't working, you're on the trip and you're making adjustments, right? Oh, we've got too many kids failing. What can we do? We've got too many kids that aren't coming to school. What can we do? Oh, we've got kids who are struggling with fluency. We can make adjustments. They don't understand fractions. We can make adjustments. So leading indicator that we'll track throughout the year are secondary grades. You can see the distribution. The green line is 10%. Really, we'd like to keep our Fs under 10%. I think that's a good target. That's sort of the industry standard. You can see A's are 47%. There's a pretty big delta between A's and everything else. And then by grade level, it's early, right? It's early October. I'm confident with what the secondary schools are doing with advisory, with office hours, with proficiency-based grading. They're doing some really good things. I'm confident that this number will come down. But hope is not a strategy. We really need to see those numbers under the green or at the green. And then lagging indicators, think of this as you're looking backwards. Like there's nothing you can do about it. It happened. It's in the rear view windshield. Mr. Roberts alluded to this. We've talked a little bit about it. There are some glows. There's glows and grows. If you look at, just take a look at the arrows that are pointing up. The first one, regular attenders, we're up by 7.
Oh, that was me.
We're up by 7%. So we're at 61%. The state average is 66. And then if you go down to the bottom, on-time graduation, we're up 10%. So 79%, the state average is 81. And then 5-year completion, we're up 3%. So those arrows, those indicators are heading in the right direction. In terms of language arts and mathematics and on-track graduation, we have lots of growth there. But again, I am very optimistic in terms of the systems that we're building, our culture, our principal leadership. We have really, really good alignment. Kara said it's hard, change is hard, but people are digging in and they're doing the hard work and these outcomes are going to change. Calendar, these are some of the things that are happening this month. See lots of we meet every Friday. We call it a huddle. We meet for about 30 to 40 minutes. We check in as an administrative group. We kind of talk about what happened that week. We do a little bit of instruction. And then we talk about the next week. And then we meet bi-monthly in a bigger meeting for 2 hours. And really that meeting is more kind of strategic and tactical things that we're working on and some responsive issues. And my good things before I transition, Gary took my thunder a little bit, but no worries. We were at Eastside 2 weeks ago. ODE came down and they filmed the science of reading work that is happening at Eastside. It was just phenomenal. I told Kara it could have been a university case study. I mean, it really could for teachers who want to teach the science of reading. They could have watched that tape. It was textbook. It was awesome. They came there for a reason. It's they're there to watch those examples and share that work with other schools and our partners across the state. So just super excited. And then if you guys didn't have a chance, the #1 ranked Marshfield Pirates beat Marist Catholic last week in I think it was 5 sets, right? Great, night. It was a little shaky the first 2 sets, but they maintained their #1 ranking. Marshfield volleyball is ranked #1. So yeah, lots of good things happening. Any questions? Yes.
I just have a comment. I just was curious. I love the office hours that they're doing at the high school as a parent and as a board member. I think that's great. I'm wondering, how are the kiddos liking that? Has there been any feedback from the kids? I think it's so cool. It was not something that I remember historically happening.
Mhm.
And so I just thought that's a great, I always talk about interventions. I always worry about interventions from 7th to 12th. And so I love that there's an opportunity for kids to get that additional work or assistance or whatever that they might need on top of their advisory. So
Yeah.
I really like that. I think that was whoever did that, brilliant, I think. So I hope the data shows that it's brilliant too. So
Yeah, I can't speak for the kids or Mr. Ashton. That was Marshfield. That was their idea to provide interventions, real-time interventions for kids. And I think that's super important, right? Because as kids are struggling in whatever class it is, if you can support them immediately, you can help them with their skills and prevent them from failing classes. I don't know if they love that we shifted it after first period.
I love that you guys shifted it after first period though, because it makes them come to
Yeah,
school
you
and
know,
then.
Kids, I always say kids are like water, path of least resistance. Even
Yeah.
kids who are pretty good students, they'll take the path of least resistance.
Exactly.
And, my philosophy is interventions have to be directed. You have to tell the kids where to go. If you say, hey, need help with Mr. Roblin's math class and it's optional, many of them won't go. So they've done a really good job of creating a system to make sure kids are getting that real-time support.
Yeah, that's great.
The only thing I would say is the system, the 22 category, that's all on the superintendent. He has to attest that, and that's how the state looks at it. And if they come by and they check and it isn't, it's on.
Yeah, that's right.
We have to do like an actual attestation.
He
for it?
has to do a true attestation that we have met those.
Yeah. And again, like I said, I feel good that we're in compliance. There's certainly areas of growth. Okay, Marina?
Yeah, so Dr. Ingber always has presentations, so now I had to get fancier. I had a printout and I realized I had to up my game. Could we zoom in? I'm blind. More. Perfect. Can everyone read this? Perfect. So all in all, we are up at 2 schools. Those are East Side and the junior high in relation to where we ended last school year. They're both up about 3 to 5 kids. So good news, but overall as a district, we are down from last school year. Unfortunately, we are down 30 from last October, which is a huge chunk, but we knew that would be happening. Most of those are at the high school level. So we're going to see what we can do to track some of those kids. We have decreased 12 since the beginning of school. That is very typical. We often start with a higher number, and then as parents and family get into the school year, that's when IDTs or homeschooling or those things happen. So nothing alarming at this point, but I'll keep an eye on monthly over the years. You can see that we've also reviewed the number of teachers. I think last year it was just a plug, like, hey, they had 5 teachers in every grade. The year before, this year, we've updated that. So you actually now can see the average size per class. So you can see that our kindergarten at Eastside is at an average of 15.6 kids in a class. Whereas over at Madison, they're looking at about 20.5 kids per class. And I provided that for all of these. If next year you want to see by grade bands, that's pretty helpful to see Madison and Eastside compared. Just let me know, I can get that for you. If you want to scroll down for me. This is a little harder to see, but at the bottom I just have June's numbers by building compared to October's numbers by building. There's no significant changes other than the high school is up a significant amount. That is very typical. Destinations is a little bit lower because the cap is lower this year. AYA is lower. Again, because we're not putting kids in AYA at this point, but that number will likely increase as Marshfield's decreases throughout the year. Everything is looking great. We are full at Little Pirates. 72 is our max. We are full. Lighthouse, you'll see their numbers increase just a tiny bit. They have a preschool program that we're including these numbers in, but they are not impacting our ADM. Overall, no significant changes for enrollment.
How many Little Pirate classrooms do we have now?
We have 4.
And Is that where we're gonna stay or are we gonna,
I hope not.
okay.
We want to grow.
We're gonna grow.
Yeah, that is our hope and our goal. We currently have 3 classes that are grant funded. It's 18 slots per class. 3 of those are grant funded, and then the other is what we call tuition based, and that's open to Coos local staff, or not staff, but people in Coos
But
County.
growth in population would require facilities that,
It would require more space. They are tapped out at Milner Crest for space. Yes. So that is it for enrollment. You'll notice that I do not have financials for you today. I tried to quickly put something together and it was more messy than helpful. We use Forecast 5. We pay for this great software that projects throughout the year and builds all these data models. They have switched to a new way to report the data to them. They have not yet built our budget model. So they're building that. I'm supposed to have it in the next 10 days. And then we will have those moving forward. Unfortunately, with it being the first Monday of October, I was hoping to have it, but they just couldn't build it in time. And we will update all of those regularly once the projection is built. And you'll also have pretty firm audit numbers. My guess is by December's board meeting. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Do we have any surprises or it's going pretty smooth?
Surprises in terms of what? The audit?
Yeah.
No, it's very smooth. It's me. So it was my stuff. It was, I was here for the whole year. So nothing was a surprise. If there was a mess, it was my mess. So at least I knew about it. So no, they're just, side note, and just so you guys are aware, we went with a local audit firm last RFP process because ours shut down. So we went as local as possible, being Roseburg. Come to find out that they were bought out by a different company. I don't know any more information about it, but they're now flying in from out of state to do field work. And so they're spending some more time getting familiar with Oregon budget law and audit standards. And so there's just a lot more to it this year. They're learning a lot as they're doing all of our audits, because they took on about 5 from our local QT. And they're, yeah. I'm not anticipating any surprises.
Yeah.
But they're busy.
any other questions? Okay. We are at the part of our agenda where we have a guest. Representative Boomer Wright is here to address us. Now that we've given you all of our background information.
I'm impressed. I'm excited for you. I really am. I mean, you've got an amazing superintendent that's going to leave. You've got especially 2 principals who I was impressed with. And obviously, change is hard, but I've never met any teacher that wasn't willing to do whatever it took to meet the needs of their kids. So I think that's always a good combination to have.
And they probably don't know Boomer, but you were a principal and a superintendent and a teacher. So you have a long history with schools.
31 years. And Boomer, my mother wasn't mad at me for naming me Boomer. Well, I moved to Florence in 1972 to teach 3rd grade. And before then, I had been in a rock and roll band for about 10 years. And so my hearing was affected. So anyway, the principal, after 3 months, the principal walks down to my room after school and goes, "Dwayne, you're doing a heck of a job. We really appreciate you. We're thinking about giving you a raise." And I thought, well, that's wonderful. And he says, "Yeah, that's the good news. Bad news, we're firing the rest of the teachers in the building." And I said, "You're kidding me." And he said, "No," he said, "we just feel like we open all the classroom doors. You can teach the whole school from your room." And so the next morning was the memo that went about Boomer in room 32. And now with the coach and then an outdoor ed director. And so Boomer just stuck. So I quit fighting it years ago. So that's Boomer. Yes, I spent 31 years in education, teaching 3rd through 6th, and then middle school principal of the 2 elementary schools in Florence, And then I was superintendent in Mapleton for my last 3 years. And so been around the block a little bit.
And then where'd you go to work?
Pardon?
And then where'd you go to work? Iconic Oregon.
Well, I get bored real easy. I ended up, a buddy of mine is part owner of Sea Lion Caves. And so I ended up being a general manager and actually had to earn my own money in a business there. It was very successful. I learned a lot about running a business, and that's how I got involved with Travel Oregon and working on tourism. And that's why I continue to work with them to bring tourists to the coast. That's an important factor for us here. I serve on the education committee at the state level, K-12. I also serve on the higher education committee and housing. On top of that, I serve on the rail task force, the broadband task force, and transmission line task force to make sure we get the electric down where we need to be and make sure our rural Oregon has the broadband access that they need, and money from the federal government continues to roll in. And then, of course, the rail for our ports and making sure that that's supported. So I'm involved in all those things. I'm excited when I heard earlier the concept of science of reading. I was appointed to the Governor's Commission on Literacy. And so I spent the last 8 months working with all types of people, from educators in language and reading, school teachers, principals, literacy professionals across the state, and taking a look at our teacher prep programs. To be very honest, I was appalled at what I found. That many of our teacher prep programs, there are 17, basically didn't teach teachers how to teach reading.
Right.
So when the teachers hit the classroom, that's why you have principals who know how to do that, and they have to reteach, but that shouldn't happen. We want our teachers coming in feeling comfortable in that classroom to teach whatever they need to teach. So we need to give them some background and support so that they have the skills to meet the kids' needs. So I'm looking forward to that. We made some recommendations and set some standards. Teacher Standards and Practices Association just came out with the standards that are going to teachers prep colleges as I speak. So we'll see how that works out. There's definitely going to be some major changes in some of our universities and colleges. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited also about what was happening this summer. The governor and I don't always agree, but there's some things that we do agree on, and that has to do with education. This summer, there were work groups on absenteeism. It's nice to hear 91%. That's amazing, because we're looking at statewide, 38% of the kids are not attending school, missing more than 10 days. And nationally, we're looking a little over 30%. So it's not something that's specific to North Bend or Coos Bay. It's something that's happening across, and there are some schools, districts across the country that are doing some amazing things, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I know ESDs are going to be working with your superintendent and your principals concerning absenteeism. Funding, of course, the governor came down with another $500 million to give to education. The rumor mill, as it goes around in my area, says that there's probably going to be another 500 mil coming down. So that should help all of us in a variety of ways. Summer school, there was a work group there. I have a bill coming that basically says I want to fund summer school permanently so that we can make sure our kids get extra help during the summer, or at least maybe attend activities they wouldn't normally get. I know Reachford took kids to the beach this summer. They took 80 kids to the beach, and 30 of them had never been to the beach. So those kinds of experiences are important. So I'm working on that. Hopefully that'll get through. Working on cell phones. There's a work group going to suggest some things concerning cell phones and some policies that may be coming down to you that you get to choose or maybe not choose. That's up to you. What else? I think we're gonna get closer to the quality education model as far as funding is concerned. And I'm appreciative of that the governor is supportive. So we'll see what happens from there. I think the alignment in your curriculum is vital. If I may give an example, I was curriculum director for Stanislaus School District for a number of years. And basically what we found out is that when you change curriculum or change textbook teaching, everybody does things a little bit different. And so what happens is sometimes what they had gotten in third grade and they need to move up to the next level in math, the new series may already have skipped another grade. And so this fourth grade class misses much in the teaching of reading as far as skills and moving up the ladder. So the alignment is really important and should continue that way for what, a 7-year cycle, 8-year cycle that we have now. And so I think it's vital that even if you can do it K-12 is a great idea. So kids aren't missing something in between and there's some continuity. One of the things I've harped at the governor about, and that is math. We did this literacy program and work group for math, for reading to deal with literacy K-5. We need to do the same thing for math. And I keep saying, how about math? Let's get going on math. We need to work on math. There are some amazing things happening across the country, particularly like in Mississippi, who have moved from bottom of the barrel in literacy, maybe even below us, to about middle of the road at 3 years. So that's pretty amazing. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and people are willing to share ideas. They're willing to give us suggestions. All we have to do is ask. So I encourage us to do that. So as far as my bills educationally are concerned this time, funding, of course, for summer school is a biggie. I want to, in some way, and I'm working with other stakeholders to make sure that instructional time is probably the most valuable time that we have. That's why we hire teachers. That's why they're special. That's why they do such a good job. We have to have instructional time in Violet so that makes sure that every period we don't have a whole lot of interruptions. Thank God for the teachers the way they are, that having to deal with what they do. I think it's important that we make some decisions concerning student behavior, and that we give our administrators and we give our teachers a little more power to be able to deal with the disruptions that occur within the classroom. I think that every child has the right to a public education, every child. But I also believe that no child has the right to disturb the class in such a way that it takes away the opportunity for the kids to learn. And so I think we have to walk a line there that says, how can we help this one person or one child to be able to deal with their discipline and make sure that the classroom teacher has the instructional time they need to teach? Because if they can't teach during the day, our kids aren't. It's just that simple. So I'm working on instructional time. I'm working on, of course, the funding aspect. I'm working on summer school for full time. I'm working on a CTE program for STEM to make sure that our kids get credit, graduation credit for taking robotics and those kinds of things. The kids who have come to the Capitol and talked to us about what they do, they're amazing, just simply amazing. And so we want to support that and encourage them to go into those kinds of things. I think we all know as teachers and administrators that sometimes what happens as kids take electives and take the opportunities for different experiences, that they not only learn what they like, but just as valuable, sometimes they learn what they don't like. And those are the things that they don't go to. So the more experiences we provide, like the CTE programs, I think the better off we are. I'm working with the TSBC to waive the, late fees for substitute teachers. And probably during that process, as I work toward, one of the things I want to do is basically waive the fees for substitutes in general, because we need to encourage as many substitutes as we can to be a part of this. They have to go through the background check. They have to do all the things that they normally do, but let's encourage more people to get into substitutes. We need them desperately. So I'm working on that. So we'll go from there. And that's about it for my bills for this time. I gave you a lot of information. Any questions?
Any questions?
I'll just say hi to Nick Batts for me.
I will.
He's one of my staffers for a long time.
Yes.
Now he's running the
Legislature is an amazing place. I sometimes say it's kind of like a big high school. They are attest to that too.
He's
But it's
doing the
great place to
broadband,
be.
which I never would have assumed he was going to be broadband, but I'm impressed with that.
Yeah. So, the elections will make a difference. We'll see what happens there. We had 22 new legislators in the House last time, and it really made a difference. A lot, to be very honest, a lot more positive than it was previously. Maybe a little more lighthearted, which is kind of nice. So I'm looking forward to getting back up there in January and working for education and seeing how much more I can help you.
You're very positive about education. How about the rest of the legislature?
You know, I think they're supportive. I just think they hear the hype that public education is failing and that the teachers are not doing their job, and they go on and on. And so part of my job is to say, wait. First I say, well, when's the last time you were in an elementary class? When's the last time you were in a high school class? Okay, before you start listening to things, you need to hear the other side. And so once you talk to people about, for instance, like testing, the high school testing is way down. Well, you know, if you allow if you allow all of the kids to opt out, you don't get the results that you need. So you don't really know what's happening at the high school level. I think it needs to be tied to graduation, but that's me. But I think it's also important that we do testing, and I think most teachers do that anyway. They test along the line, whether it's looking over their shoulder and seeing a kid doing 5 times 5 is 20, and they go, wait a minute, you know, we need to talk about that. Or just walking around the room and seeing what the kids are doing. And my experience is at the elementary, middle school level, so excuse me, since I spent 5 weeks teaching high school literature class, that was an excuse.
And didn't do it again.
I would. It took a while to get to their level. And then I started substituting at the high school level. I subbed at Marshfield for many days and thoroughly enjoyed it. And Reachport and Siuslaw and North Bend. So that's the one area I was not involved in at the high school level. And so I dismissed the kids. And so I quit working at Sea Lion Caves, then I substituted. So, and I may go back and doing that when I'm done with this. I mean, I already can do this, why can't I? Any other questions?
Through the chair, a couple things. One, thank you. All the items you talked about are super important. Let me know how I can help. I'm interested to see how the cell phone conversation goes at the state level, because I know that the state of Washington bans cell phones.
Yes,
And
there's
I
a bill going.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but I know there's a bill coming.
Yeah, I know there's strong opinions on both sides. And then offline, I would like to talk to you about some things I think we can do with state exams to get more buy-in from kids. There's some states that are doing some pretty innovative things, allowing them to be part of the initial assessment when you go to a university. Some of them allow them to be part of grade recoupment. If a kid doesn't pass it and it's tied to graduation, I would say then you allow them to do something proficiency wise to demonstrate those skills.
Yeah.
But I think we can do some things to get high school kids to buy into it. Yeah.
Yeah. the point is, for all of us, is the idea that when whoever that child is, when they leave school, they have the skills they need to be a productive citizen. And wherever they want to go, I mean, that's why we're all here. And so the better we can help that, then the better. And I'll leave some cards, and don't hesitate to give me a call. I get sometimes 200 to 250 emails a day. So it's sometimes difficult to get through them. I spend most of my weekends on doing emails. So give me a phone call, please. Just give me a phone call. Say, but what about this? What do you think about this? This is what we're having a problem. Can you do something about that? What are other school districts doing? And I'm pretty plugged into a lot of school districts. My district goes from, I have East Side, I have Charleston, I have Goose Bay, North Bend, I go just north of Florence, and I go into the valley to Lorraine, Crow, Elmira, Veneta, Alvador, Triangle Lake, Mapleton, all those schools. And so I'm pretty clued into what those school districts are doing. So anytime you want something, say, what's everybody else doing? You know, I can probably find out, or I already know about that. I enjoy coming to the school board meetings and talking to people. And before I leave, thank you for what you do. Thank you very much for what you do. It's an effort, but it's a dedication, I know, for all of you to make things better for kids. So thank you.
If you ever want to bring any other legislators down to see what a good school district is doing, feel free.
Well, I'm sure that Brock Smith and Court Boyce, who is runs down below us, would be happy to come. So we'll work with the doctor there and see about coming in so they can hear this. And you know, normally I want to thank you for this. Normally they always put me first.
Yeah, I made them put you afterwards.
You are so wise. You're so wise. Because I learned a lot tonight. I learned a lot about.
Well, I wanted you to. I wanted you to hear from us before we heard from you.
Well, I could go on all night about it. So thank you for the invite and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. So now the fun and games is over. We get to move into policies. I'm going to let David.
Oh, Kevin first.
Oh, Kevin, that's right.
Get you guys
And then
warmed up.
David will shepherd us through.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so to start out, we have, let's see, catch up on my notes here. We're gonna item 1 and 2. So basically, the policy committee would like to review our policies on dogs in our facilities, along with reviewing our flag policy. And I'm here to kind of get some feelers to see where you guys are at, what we already have, and then go back to the policy committee, see what we could tweak, make stricter, help give guidance for staff, and then I come back and present hopefully 2 better policies for you guys to vote on. So if you guys have any questions on,
I actually, because I got your email, Kevin, just obviously we had a situation that happened, and then B, Millicoma is an interesting place because it leads to
The
marsh, which is public. And so a lot of people do walk through the property and walk their dogs around the marsh area there. So I'm interested in just how we would work that depending on which way we decide or the policy, what that looks like. So, because that is a very unique situation, knowing that is laid out. So I didn't get to make the last policy committee meeting. So do we already have any kind of?
No, so if I could just elaborate a little more on because this is kind of a new piece of our agenda. So our thought process here was when someone brings a policy up that they would like to review, other than the OSBA updates that we're going to get, obviously those ones we'll review as the policy committee and then bring to you. But when a policy is kind of brought up ad hoc, we'd like to bring it to you first to see if there's an interest in even reviewing the policy. What's the reason or the impetus behind reviewing that policy before we go and do all the legwork of changing a policy. we first want to get a temperature of how the board feels about it. So are you interested in looking into it? It sounds like the dog policy, we are interested in, or at least Diane is interested in reviewing. But that's kind of the process.
We do have a current policy, right? I mean, many of our fields are not, dogs are not available.
Our current policy is very, very, very lackluster.
Okay.
It basically is it's really explicitly talking about in the buildings.
Right.
And it's just saying, you service dogs and police drug detection dogs are exempt. But it's a 2-paragraph. It doesn't really go into, anything about fields,
Or time of day.
time of day, those types of things. And that's, I think, where we want to drill down on the dog policy, because I agree with Diane, and I think that's the general, when we did have a conversation, that was the general thing was, well, we don't want to impede the public from using public lands and walking their dog, but at the same time, we have to keep our students safe. So how can we do two things at once? And there were different things that were brought up, maybe the track's closed during school hours. After school hours, if you want to walk your dog on a leash, maybe that's okay. And we haven't obviously landed on anything, but those were some of the conversations we were having. Added signage is going up. That's something we can do now without changing our policy. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea, and we'll start to put prospective policies for review as a section on here, so we can gauge your interest before we do the legwork at policy and making any revisions.
Before the field was turfed, the whole high school, a lot of people walk dogs, and the dogs always left stuff for our kids. That was not a good thing. It made a problem because a lot of people don't pick up after their dogs, and I have always felt that was a frustration. We made a policy, no dogs in the Capitol building, which made some people really angry with me. But the reality is, I think it is not good to have dogs in a place where kids are going to go playing and running around and doing all that kind of stuff. So I think they should review it. I don't know exactly where it is. Eastside is a different case in that a lot of people use that. And one of the things we don't have in our area are dog parks. I mean, they just don't exist. And that's hard for people who have animals that need to be exercised on. It is an issue. So I hope we have more conversations on that one.
And I have plenty of video footage I could supply to help support you when we do come back with the policy of dogs doing their stuff and the kids right there at Millico.
Yep.
Yeah, Jamie left. It's too bad because I would like to ask if there's another way people could get to the trail.
Well, you don't have to go through the track.
Yeah.
Without
currently-
one, but
You don't have to go through the track.
So currently Jamie's response to the situation that brought all of this up is that they are expected to walk on the outside of there's like a little walk path, and that is where dogs are allowed on a leash specifically, which is what our signage says. I think part of the issue is because we just finished the new parking lot, there was not a sign put back there. But typically there's always been a sign that says dogs on leash, and then you walk around, not on district property.
And doesn't the city itself already have a leash? They do, like leash law or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and I can tell you that there's at least 12 people per day that don't read the sign, but do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping they come
because
to
their
these
dogs are
meetings,
so
like
good,
I
they
said,
don't
they
need.
have their dogs. And getting signs up is easy. I mean, I'm just a school board member and I just have all these awesome signs all over the place that could easily be put up. If we end up voting and it goes through, I'll donate these out. So that we can put them up, where they can actually be read and seen, and then. Yeah. And right now, some of the schools have something similar, but most of the schools don't. Millicoma has some little stuff. And I think if these were up at Millicoma, it would help, probably like 80%, really. 20%, they're not gonna read them because I'll point at the sign that's there. And I've been doing this for 30 years. But then it's all fun and games until someone gets bit, you know? And people, and then most of the time they don't care. So I'd like to see something done. My main thing is kids and community, and the way it's sitting right now, it's not safe. I seriously do not know how a kid's not getting bit every single day at Monaco. And it's not the kid's fault. It's not the teacher's fault.
Well, it's that most dogs are nice. That's what it is. Most dogs aren't gonna bite, which is why they don't get bitten more often. But you're gonna have that one dog that you don't count on that looks really cute and comes bounding.
Yeah, so my main goal is just to bring awareness, so you guys know. I'm there like probably at least 2 hours every single day doing stuff. And then on the weekends, like 15 hours, probably on Saturdays and Sundays. So I see a lot of action. I mean, this little sign stuff would be extremely helpful.
And then what's the flag policy one?
So the flag policy, there's two parts to that. We have one part where I don't believe, I'll have to look into it more, that they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance enough in school. And on the policy, it states once a week. And that's kind of intermittent based off of assemblies kind of. So if that was brought down to daily and maybe a certain class. And then also, there's certain flags that have been approved to go up on a flag pole, but they find a little loophole to put them in windows. And then they're distracted. I think you should stick to your topic. Your math, your science, not make a whole topic off of that flag, which is being done. And so if we fix some language, kind of come back with some better policy, I think it'd help guide the school district to something more promising instead of a distraction or liabilities. That's from now.
But do you have any questions on that policy?
I have a feeling we're gonna go around on that flag thing, Kevin, but,
I'll bring more visual aids.
but, I mean, I think it's worth, definitely
You
worth
guys have been-
visiting and, I mean, actually, the flag thing came up because we were talking at Marshfield when we did our facility tour that they were possibly gonna move the flagpole to the center, which I think is really cool, and I was interested in hearing what flags we actually, do have.
Yeah. And we have a pretty good list.
Fly
Yeah.
on the pole, and if
Yeah.
there is something that needs to be added, I don't know if the local tribal flags are part of
That's
that
already
or
on there.
not, or.
Yep.
And then,
They're already on there.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, yeah, I mean, to me, teachers' classrooms are, there's a lot of exceptional classrooms and different things, and healthy debate is always important, and I think you can govern the flagpole, but when you get a little bit further than that, it could be kind of controversial either way. But yeah, I like the idea.
I
of
would just like to keep
revisiting.
the classrooms for kids and not really for adults to change topics.
I think, did Eli have a comment?
Well, so in high school, we do pledge allegiance every month. I do it on the announcements. I do the pledge allegiance every Monday morning on announcements. So we always follow that. Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's shown every Monday during the event.
Does every classroom have a flag?
Yes, I've
They
tried.
did,
to
and
make
we
sure.
were.
I always find one classroom, I go through and I go, oh man, what happened to your flag? And then I have to get another one, but yeah. Yeah, we went through my first year and we made sure that every classroom had a flag. So, yeah, thank you.
That's an American flag.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like there's consensus that we should review both policies at policy committee and then bring any suggested changes back to the full board. Is that, we in agreement there? Okay. On to policy updates. So I've started to make sure that you're all included when I send out the policy packet, just so if you're interested, you can read on it. If you have comments to send me, feel free to. I'm happy to share any comments. I also provide the. What are you saying?
Sorry, I'm just clearing my throat.
I also provide the policy packet to our cabinet, and the cabinet reviews and gives any notes, which I share then with the policy committee. The first policy up for review today is graduation requirements. This one up here. There were just a minor change there. It's removing the, whatever it is, alternative certificates. Why am I not seeing it here? Oh, there it is. It's no longer, we can't offer an alternative certificate, so we're just being in compliance with the law on that one. The next one is GBEC, alcohol and drug-free workplace. Anything that's highlighted in yellow, that is what the committee has elected to keep or add. If it's struck through or highlighted over in red, that means that's something the committee elected to remove.
What page are you on?
I am on page 39, moving to page
Okay.
40.
Got it.
So there were some minor changes, and this was an OSBA prompted one that we changed.
So when we get culinary arts, that became a problem in school district after school district,
What?
not having the ability to have wine with it.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
Put
big?
down, yeah, that
Mhm.
makes sense.
No alcohol, okay, can't teach that one.
That, I never would have thought of that. That's interesting. I don't generally cook with it, but some people do.
Yep.
Let's see. The next one is GBED, drug testing. There was an optional section for medical examinations, and after speaking with our HR department, it just really wasn't something that the district could feasibly do. And we didn't really find a reason for it. I mean, you have to announce if you need a accommodation, and we can provide one to you, but we didn't see the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, so to speak, and the district would have to front the cost of every one of the medical examinations. So that was why that section was left out. Nothing else except for an ORS, and we just added other applicable laws as well. That's that one. I think that this one, section 504 students, they just, yeah, so they added the two asterisks,
Yeah,
which indicates, let me pull it up real quick.
it had to do with community or family, something.
It did, and I included in the, did you guys read the board post that we sent out last week? So in there, I put all of these policies individually, so you
Yeah.
could go through and look at them, and I also included a policy key that kind of explains what you're looking at. But the two double asterisks identifies a reference to the term parent within the policy and directs the reader to the policy section table of contents for definition. So that's what that is. That's really the only change on that one, except for a little footer on the last page and a new ORS added. The next one is the AR associated with that policy, JBAA-AR. They added the double asterisks and then also the single asterisk, which indicates that the policy may be subject to collective bargaining. The single asterisk is usually left in during the review stage as a reference to consider language in a collective bargaining agreement and is deleted prior to adoption. So that's what that one's for. If they're in gray, it's just because I forgot to take the highlight off, and that's OSBA sends them in gray. So I copy and paste over from OSBA onto our policies. So if you ever see gray, that's what it is. It's what OSBA uses. Minimal changes there. Policy JEA, compulsory attendance. We added a whole, well, we elected to keep a whole section here. That kind of explains the process with home homeschooled students and registering with the ESD, and those types of things, and kind of as a exception to compulsory attendance in public school. Then they deleted a couple ORSs from the footnotes. The next one is the AR associated with that outlines the procedure. One thing that the committee elected to do is, you'll see on page 59, the yellow highlight where it says English and. What OSBA had recommended the language that the notes will be written in the native language of the parent or guardian. We added will be written in English and the native language, so that both, because in a lot of households, multiple languages are spoken. So the student may not speak the same language as the parent, which is their native language. So just to get everybody on the same page, we decided to do both. So that was something the committee came up with. There's some changes to the non-enrollment notice. We changed it from their options were attendance supervisor or principal. We changed it to administrator, and maybe a vice principal that's issuing these, or a dean of students. It won't always be the principal. So to get us out of having to have to be the principal, we changed that. Otherwise, oh, and we added the information for ESD.
Yeah.
The next policy is directly from OSBA. It's a highly recommended policy. And it's JHCA-JHCD. I'm on page 67. They added a section about school sports participation. Let's see. Yeah, so it's about
We just changed the process for
immunization, school sports participation, going over physicals and what's required to bring us in compliance with the law. The next one, EBB, is injury or illness reports. There is one note that I had on this one. It was a late note, so I didn't get it in before policy committee. So this one we may want to review again. And the note was in our current guidelines, we say a written report will be submitted within 24 working hours instead of 24 hours because there is an administrator component to those reports. So 24 hours is not always feasible. So in the past, I believe Candace had recommended 24 working hours or 24 business hours. And speaking with Michelle today, that was a recommendation she also agreed with. So I'm happy to make that change, or I can bring it back to policy committee. And we can make that change there and bring it back for a second reading.
Did you have any objection to making that change?
I think it's a good change, though.
Yeah.
If something happens on Friday, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get it done if you don't get it done by Monday.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So you just make that change.
Yeah.
Okay, I will make that change and we will put it up for adoption at our next board meeting. We also, on page 72, elected the superintendent to be the recipient of such reports so that the board doesn't get every incident and accident report and have to go through those.
I had one of them.
Page 74, we are on KBA-AR, which is public records requests. We added information for our district. We chose to keep the costs on page 75. Because if we don't have anything in here saying what it costs for us to do it, the sky's the limit and we will get some wild requests. And I'm not going to be able to get packets together for you guys if I'm filling public records requests.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, happy to comply, but there needs to be a little bit of a give and take there, or else we're going to get hammered. Moving on to policy GVA, expression of milk or breastfeed in the workplace. There was just some outdated language on here as far as the locations of the rooms. So that's the only change on there. That wasn't an OSBA one. That was something that Michelle Barton had brought to my attention, and we brought through policy committee. Now we get into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
So in my mission to get policy packets together, I have often found policies that are outdated or in conflict with one another. Policy KL was one of those. As I looked into it, there were policy updates somewhere along the road that were missed many years ago, and it tweaked our policy so that they were in conflict with each other. Certain policies hadn't been deleted and should have been. So we were basically putting new wheels on an old car, like we weren't actually fixing we were just continuing to compound the error. So actually our policy, I guess I have our current policy KL is at the end here and it will be deleted. This is OSBA's sample policy of KL. This is the version that the policy committee thought best suited our district, which was version 1. So you'll see we went through here and it was their boilerplate policy and we made the changes throughout there. It's very, very, very similar to how our policy is now without the conflicts. It essentially is the same version. It's just their updated version. So the complaint policy will, for all intents and purposes, be the same, but there won't be conflicting information on the website, which is confusing for patrons of the school as well as school employees. The next one is the same thing. KLAR1 was also deleted, and somewhere we missed that. So we are going to be adopting their new sample KLAR1. Again, it's the public complaint procedure, and it's very, very similar to parts of ours that was in place, just with some updates to make it in compliance with the law currently. We did add a section, and I should have highlighted it in yellow, but on the complaint form, page 85, we added something for address. It's nice to know if the people sending complaints are actually residents of the district.
Yeah.
So that was the impetus for that. And then they kind of broke out. This used to be part of the procedure. It was written into it and it got really wordy. But KLAR2 on page 86 goes through the whole process of appeal to the Deputy Superintendent of Public Instruction should the complainant not agree with how the board finds their complaint. So it separates it into its own AR rather than muddying up the procedure. So you don't have to read through all of that if you just want to file a complaint and you want to go through the process with the district. And that one we left pretty much unchanged. The next policy is GBM. That was one that was formerly deleted by OSBA that we did not catch the delete. And that's staff complaints. Most staff complaints are either handled through the collective bargaining agreement or through policy KL. The next one is as I said, it's GBM KLAR1 and GBM KLAR2. Those are our current complaint policy ARs that will be deleted in lieu of the ones we just went through. And then on page 93 is complaint policy KL. Again, that's one that we will be deleting in lieu of the one we just went through. Does anyone have any questions on policy updates? Correct. I think it's back to you, Abby.
Okay.
So this is just
We're down
reading,
to,
first reading of those, right? Or second?
Yes, just first reading.
Okay.
So they will be in the consent agenda at the next board meeting for adoption.
Got it.
okay, we're down to our items. Are there any board member highlights? Did anybody?
I would say that my highlight this last week was the volleyball. It was pretty amazing, actually. And to recognize that we have a lot of our staff kids out on the volleyball court.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of talented kids.
Yeah, that volleyball team is pretty good.
I was kind of concerned the first 2.5 games. Because we didn't
They
look all
lost
that
the
good.
first two sets.
We left,
Yeah.
we were well behind in the third one before we came to light. But yeah, it was impressive. Yep. And I will say, the other one is we took a tour of the facilities at the high school. That was I thought a really good day. I really appreciated the opportunity to do that. I had not noticed the lighting in the gym. It is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I took a movie of the gym because it was amazing how much better it is to see in that gym. It's
How many,
pretty awesome.
how many board members attended that tour? I wasn't able to make it.
We didn't make a lot of decisions.
No. No, I'm not,
I know. They're on.
It's me and you,
And
Arnie.
Kevin.
Oh, Kevin. And Kevin was there, that's good. That was, I enjoyed the facility tour. I will say there is something fun about the beginning of the year. I do the boosters as well, so I've been in Buck Palace in concessions, and it's always fun to see the school spirit and the kids out at the games and the volleyball games, and so that's kind of where I have been aside from the facility tour, which was really, it's awesome. So sometimes you don't get to see all the bits and pieces of the school. So I like the facility
I think
tours.
if you haven't taken, high school is a really amazing building, built in the 1930s or
Yeah.
40s. And it has a lot of things that most schools don't have today. The auditorium alone is pretty amazing.
It's an amazing building. I went on a tour with Eli once, and I think my watch told me I had walked 3 miles as I went up and back and upstairs and downstairs.
And there's a lot of space.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So that was exciting. And the other update is that I hope we would have been done with the football stadium this year, but we have the resources. We just haven't got it done. So. And when you depend on a whole lot of people who don't charge you, you have to kind of let them do their own thing.
you don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
But they think it should be done by next year, so that's good.
Perfect. Anything else? I contacted Lisa about getting together with her and going over to Madison, and then I promptly got sick. And so it was like, well, I'm not coming for a while. But I think that's this week. Okay, and our last thing was committee restructuring. We went through the committee structure at the beginning of the year. We're wondering now if anybody would like to change their designations.
And part of that was, you can go ahead.
Okay, and part of it is the belief that perhaps having 3 people and an alternate board members on the negotiating committee was perhaps a little heavy-handed on our part. And so I was talking to Justin. You know, the idea is maybe if we could take our 3 people and knock them down to 2 and make the 3rd person then the alternate instead of the alternate, and the alternates get to go away. Is that? So on classified negotiations, Arnie, you want to do that still?
Again, I'm
We'll ask Adrian if he still wants to do it, or was Adrian the one who said he wasn't really?
Adrian was the one who said he's been on it forever and he couldn't see himself going off.
Yeah, so why don't we make him the alternate?
Okay.
And Kim won't be an alternate then. And the same on licensed negotiations.
I'll move to negotiate to
Okay,
the alternate amount.
Mhm.
and there goes one of your jobs. Whew. Okay. Any other changes? Does anybody want on or off of a committee that they're currently on?
I think, Diane, you had noted the facilities committee would be difficult for you to attend this year because it conflicts with the work meeting.
Yeah, it was facilities and I love facility. I love it. It's one of my favorite committees, but that is my once a week administrative meeting at work and, it's pretty non-negotiable with my boss. So unless it's canceled or whatever, yeah, I mean, I definitely can not be on it and just pop in. I mean, they're open meetings, right? I mean, so I could just attend as available.
The hard part is you don't want 4 members.
Four, there's only 3.
I know, but if somebody else is put on there and you show up, then there would be 4.
Oh,
What if we
just take me out.
just move Diane to an alternate?
To an
and keep
alternate
it as
position.
2, and
That
then
works.
we can show up.
That can show up and then show up.
Yeah.
That works. Yep.
Awesome.
Okay,
I do appreciate when you point out that somebody's not going to be there. Would anybody else like to come?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
So
I
I'll do
do
that.
too.
I think that's a good,
Well, and then it's been very helpful for me too, because we otherwise wouldn't be having meetings,
Right.
So
Yeah,
to keep the process rolling, particularly with policy, because we have so many to get through. It's very helpful when one of you is able to attend. So I certainly appreciate it as well.
Yeah.
Data user talks about this one as well.
okay,
Oh, we missed one, administrative compensation also has 3 folks on it.
oh,
Top.
history compass. Diane, do you want to do that one?
So who do we, Diane,
or would you like?
What do we
I mean, I'm pretty flexible either. So whatever works.
Addie, you're on classified negotiations. Would you like to be the alternate for administrative compensation? Sure. Okay. Then we'll have Kim and Diane on admin compensation.
Okay. We done? Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the order? You guys have anything to say? We're all quiet over there.
I'm surprised they're still here.
Oh, I would say it's really nice working with this board. It's a good group of people. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arnie.
Even when you're giving me a.
And on that,
Justin, do you want these?
I think Uma was
We're kind of.
was